Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of Monday Night Must See TV with the Hudson Valley Squares. What's up, everybody?
What's up?
Brian Scow's in the house. Craig Kaminsky's in the house. Chris Allo's in the house. And Count Ralphus himself is in the house. What's up, fellas?
Going on?
What's going on?
How are you?
Life, right? Life. It's Monday, work week. Boo, 2 thumbs down for the work week, but we got to do it. Hey, it sucks. Monday sucks because it's the beginning of the work week, but it's also really cool because it's Hudson Valley Squares night. So there's two ways to look at that. So we have here tonight for your viewing pleasure, we have another idea, a topic from Mr. Allo, who he's had his topic hat on of late. He keeps firing me off ideas like every other day on Facebook Messenger, and I'm like, oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. I think this one's a real good one as well. So let's say you pick 3 bands that you really like a lot, but maybe there's a member of that band that you're like, wouldn't it be better if we took that person out of the band and substituted them with this person, right? Could be the singer, could be the guitar player, bass player, drummer, keyboard player, sax player, flute player, fiddle player, whatever. It doesn't really matter, but you think that there would be a better fit than that one person. So we've each picked 3 bands where we would do that member swap, and we're going to tell you why we're going to take out the one member, why we're going to replace them for the other one, and why it would make things better. So, of course, I'm going to let Chris kick us off with his first choice today, since this was his idea, and take it away, Mr. Allen.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Pete. Sorry, I keep sending you ideas. Some of them are probably crap, I'm sure, but this one was okay. This one sort of came to me the other day, and I might have mentioned this once or twice on the show before, but I am a big Black Sabbath fan. And a couple of years ago, yeah, I know.
Really?
I used to keep that to myself. But a couple of years ago, there was a show at the Chance of Poughkeepsie that I went to, and I was really looking forward to it. It was Zakk Sabbath, and I thought it was really cool because it was Zakk Wylde on vocals and guitar, with Blasco on bass from Ozzy and Rob Zombie's band, and Joey Castillo from Queens of the Stone Age and Danzig on drums. And I thought, oh, this is cool. They're just going out. There's no agenda. They're just going to do Sabbath covers. But it was fucking awful because two reasons. Zakk Wylde knew none of the fucking words. He had a chair on stage next to him with giant pieces of construction paper that the roadies would swap out on each song. Because Zakk, apparently, even though he's been in the Ozzy Sabbath family for...
He's a huge Sabbath fan. What's his fucking deal?
Every fucking song. He had a roadie was swapping lyrics. Wow. So that really irked me. And then the other thing that completely fucking drove me mad was not for every song, but for some of the songs, like one of them might have been Snowblind. There would be like a 40-second Tony Iommi guitar solo. Well, Zakk Wylde would do like a fucking 8-minute jerk-off session where he just did whatever the fuck he wants, literally for 8 minutes. I'm like, you've got to be fucking kidding me. So on paper, I think this band is a cool idea, but the execution was fucking awful. So I'm like, you know what? Fuck Zakk Wylde. I'm taking him out of Zakk Sabbath. And I started to think about it, and I'm like, all right, so I need a guy who can play guitar and who can sing. Zakk kind of does that fake Southern-y kind of thing. I'm like, fuck that. Let's get a guy that's really from the South. And then I was like, you know what? I don't need some guy that's some fucking bullshit jerk off like Zakk Wylde, even though I like Zakk. But obviously he doesn't know the fucking words. So let's get a guy that actually is a Black Sabbath fan. So I'm like, fuck him. I'm getting Pepper Keenan, and I'm putting Pepper Keenan in Zakk Sabbath. And I was telling the missus this story. She's like, but wait, it's got his name. I'm like, fuck him. I'm like, let's call it Pep Sabbath. I don't care. I'm like, but I guarantee you this band will be 10 times better than Zakk fronting that band. So that's my first pick, Pep Sabbath, with Pepper Keenan fronting Zakk Sabbath.
That's a cool idea. I am, I didn't go to see them live, and I'm thinking, why would you not do rehearsals to be prepared for a tour like this. What they do is just decide on a Friday, let's go do this tour, and then Saturday they show up and just, I know the riffs and stuff. I don't know.
It was one of the worst things I've ever seen, and I was so miserable because I didn't go by myself. Like if I remember saying, if I drove myself, and the chance is only 15 minutes from my house,
you could just leave.
By the third song, I would have been, boom, in my car and driving home. But I went with a fucking truckload full of friends. So I was like, fuck, I am stuck here. It was like 100-minute set, and they only did like 11 songs. Because every other song, Zakk had to do like a fucking 9-minute solo. I'm like, oh my God. So awful, awful. But I think the Pepper Keenan would do 10 times better.
There you go. To the point. Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. That's a good start here. All right, Ryan.
Well, this was the hardest topic I think we've ever. Man, I fucking struggle with this one. One name immediately popped in my head as soon as you said this, and then everything else was just a slog. So the name that immediately, like the second I read a topic, just popped in within nanoseconds was, you know what? Lars Ulrich, we're getting him the fuck out of there. Now I got to put two big caveats in, because as soon as you mentioned Metallica, which I don't mention Metallica very often on this show, because it's like taking a fucking baseball bat and whacking a hornet's nest full of fucking opinions. Everybody's got their 10 cents on it. Back when I was growing up, I love Metallica. I think all of us here love Metallica, but they were never like that band for me. Slayer, Iron Maiden, Sabbath, those were much more important to me growing up. So I never had that attachment to Metallica. I mean, they were great. Don't get me wrong. I could still listen to those first 4 albums all the time. They were never like that band for me, like they were for a lot of other people. And even though people rag on Lars all the time, I think he's great on those first 4 albums. It's simple. It's effective. It's what the songs need. I have no problems with anything he did on those first 4 albums. So I'm really specifically referring to the new album, 72 Seasons, which I don't like, but his drumming takes a not so good album and just fucking drives railroad spikes right through it. That's production, and it sounds like a fucking, I don't know what's going on with it. I would readily believe that he didn't even play it. It was a drum program, but we'll assume because he's one of the founders of the band and has a pretty big ego from what we've seen over the years, that it was him. But man, it makes the album totally unlistenable. Like I get about 30 to 40 seconds into these songs and it's just like bong bong. It's worse than Saint Anger for me. So you know what? It's just, he's got to fucking go. And we'll bring in Dave Lombardo, because when it comes to classic thrash drummers, you can always count on Dave. He's been in every band. He always fucking kills it. Misfits, Suicidal Tendencies, Slayer, Testament, always does a good job. So sorry, Lars. I don't care if you founded the band and you're a zillionaire. You got to get the fuck out of here. Bring it in, Dave. And they're going to re-record 72 Seasons with Dave and an actual, authentic, real drum sound, and not this electro fucking shitty drum program bullshit. Because that is just, it's like a little hammer just hitting your head the whole time. And the album's like 8,000 years long too. Like the way Chris Allo feels about the new Maiden albums, that's that new Metallica album to me. Like it's just like a 7-month-long album, just dung 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 dung. So sorry, Lars, you're out of there.
Good pick. And Lars was Lombardo was in Metallica for like 3 songs.
Yeah, just for a couple, just a live thing, not like in an official capacity, but yeah, he can pretty much play anything because he's a great drummer, but he's an accomplished musician. Yeah. And he never, Lars, I feel like early on he was good, for what he was, and I feel like he just gave up over the years. He's like, I made my money, I don't need to practice anymore, I don't need to rehearse, because I don't know, he really went downhill. But that new album, it's just, he makes it unlistenable for me totally. He ruins the whole fucking thing, so he's got to go.
All righty. Greg.
All right, thanks. More on Lars Ulrich in round 2 or 3 or whatever. But my first pick is Jason Newsted is pretty much seen as like a good guy. He was always a team player when he was in Metallica. Every interview that I've ever seen with him, he was always very friendly with the fans and seemed to love his job while he was in Metallica, relished his position, and got a lot of people on his side, feeling that he kind of got jobbed during the And Justice for All recordings with the lack of bass, or that it's there, but it's like so minute that you can't even hear it. And once he was out of Metallica, he got some street cred and played with Voivod for some years. So I thought of, he's been kind of a baby face. I want to see Jason Newsted turn heel and replace James Lomenzo in Megadeth, and just go on a tirade saying of how he was held back all those years, and how his presence could very well rise Megadeth up from kind of the status that they've been in over some years. I mean, they're not quite at the level maybe where they should be, considering how much history they have. But I always wanted to kind of see him turn heel, and it'd be like, when Hulk Hogan joined the NWO and everything. It's like, and you never expected to see him in that band, and just to see him talk some shit about them, and bring some fire into Megadeth. So that was my first one. I'd like to see him. And I had to look up who was the bass player in Megadeth anyway, since it's kind of now that Ellefson's out, I honestly don't know who was there. So it was James Lomenzo out. And
Lomenzo's good, but I thought he was kind of the safe pick there, right?
Oh yeah.
He was Jason was really good in Voivod too. That self-titled Voivod album from like early 2000s. He was awesome.
Or something.
He's a really good bass player, actually.
Yeah.
He played with Ozzy for a little bit.
Cool. All right, Ralph.
All right, so I totally fucking did not read this topic the way everybody else is. I didn't know we could just take anybody from any band. When the Beatles heard Jimi Hendrix, they should have got rid of George Harrison and bring Jimi Hendrix into the band. Like, I didn't know. I thought it had to be something like, for one, I had like all sorts of rules that weren't even like mentioned or nothing, but I thought it had to be a band that's still happening and something that could still like happen. And I wasn't taking any dead people and stuff. So I'm looking at it as like, all right, we got the original Misfits coming back through again. I'm sure Chris has got tickets for probably all three shows, but I got tickets for the Jersey show, Newark, and so I'm looking at it as like they're billing themselves as the original Misfits, and then they put Doyle down as like an extra guest because he's not until the end of the Misfits, but it's kind of an original member. But they got this guy AC Slade from Dope and Murder Dolls. We got Bobby Steele. He's alive. He's still putting out albums. He just put this one out not too long ago with his band The Undead. They play Misfits songs live. Why the fuck isn't he, if he can't do the whole tour or whatever, even just for a few songs, but he should be up there. You're going to bill it as the original Misfits. Why the fuck isn't he up there? These bands always want to act like they do everything for their fans, but they're doing it for themselves. And I think Bobby Steele should be up there playing on these original Misfits shows, getting a nice paycheck, and this guy who's up there had nothing to fucking do with the band. They could have got other people too that had more of a connection to the Misfits, but instead they pull some guy out that, I love having Dave Lombardo on drums. That's great, but I thought that's more of what the subject was like who would you take out and put in that should be in there from a band
that works,
part of the band.
Yep, that totally works too.
Yeah, that totally works.
Yep, absolutely. All right, my first choice here, UFO. So we all know Michael Schenker has been in and out of UFO a couple times, right? And ultimately in the mid-2000s, the band decided to, I guess the last time Schenker was in the band and left, they said, all right, we're going to bring someone else in here. And they bring in Vinnie Moore, right? Fantastic player. He's an American, right? So now you got an American playing in a British band. He's more of like he's one of those Mike Varney shrapnel guys, right? He can do the neoclassical shredding and all sorts of stuff. So they bring him in and they do a whole bunch of albums with Vinnie Moore that, are fine for what they are, but they're kind of real generic. I think Vinnie plays for the albums and, how much he was told you got to play this way or whatnot. I don't know. But I think the albums are kind of safe and maybe you might even say they're somewhat boring, right? So I think a better choice to bring in to replace a Schenker instead of Vinnie Moore would have been a guy like Adrian Vandenberg. I think the band missed that kind of European feel. He's a Dutch guy. Michael's a German guy. Adrian grew up idolizing Michael Schenker. He had similar things about his playing. I think he would have worked out much, much better. Again, no disrespect to Vinnie Moore. Love him. but I think those albums might have sounded a lot more exciting with a guy like Adrian Vandenberg on board, and maybe brought somewhat of a Schenker vibe to the proceedings rather than what Vinny was doing. I think if they would have let Vinny just do his normal thing, maybe those albums would be a little more exciting. I don't know, but I always thought that a guy like Adrian Vandenberg would have sounded really good in a band like UFO. So that's my first choice for today. Turn it back to Chris.
Nice. I'm sold on that, Pete.
You like that idea? I think that would work, right?
I think that's a great pick. Yeah.
Yeah, because quite frankly, I mean, what really was Adrian doing around this time, right? I mean,
right. I mean, did he have wrist issues again? I don't know. I mean,
no, I think he was over that. He had this other band going on that like nobody really listened to, and I forget the name of the band. And this was, after Whitesnake and whatnot. And so, this is before he decided to put Vandenberg back together. So I think, why not, right? So
yeah, and I love that Vandenberg record, the last one.
Really good, right? Yeah.
Really, really solid. So that's a great pick.
Yeah. All right, back to Chris.
All right. So I gave Zakk Wylde a pink slip on one band. So I figured, well, why stop there? A lot, and I like Zakk. I've interviewed him. I met him a couple times. He's a nice guy, but sometimes Zakk is just too much Zakk. And, everybody for years kept saying, oh, yeah, if there is some kind of Pantera reunion, it's got to be Zakk Wylde. And, I mean, I never saw it myself. Now he is officially in the band. I've seen some of the footage, and I'm not sold. I think the only reason he fits, I guess, is obviously being friendly with the guys, but also, the connection to the family, because he was so close with Dimebag and Vinny. But, I want, if I'm going to a Pantera show, I want it to sound closer to real Pantera. So I would definitely want a guy that's a shredder. I would want a guy that can, play some of the more melodic stuff, but also, is well versed in extreme metal. I would want a guy that's a big Eddie Van Halen fan, like Dimebag Darrell. And listen, Phil Anselmo's kind of a volatile character, so I would want a guy that's able to work with Phil. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm grabbing, even though he had some health issues recently, I'm grabbing Trey from Morbid Angel.
Wow.
I'm putting him in Pantera, and I think that version of Pantera would definitely be more exciting to see live than the Zakk version. So that would be my pick.
Morbid Angel and Pantera toured together, and they came to the Civic Center that time.
They toured together twice, and I think on both tours, Ralph. I know it was at least on one of the tours, but I think it was on both tours. Phil would come out and every night and do Day of Suffering with Morbid Angel.
Oh yeah, he loved them. He put them on the bill, and they were great. That's the main reason I went to that show.
Yeah,
I think that was what, Extreme Steel tour or something.
Well, there was two, Craig. They did. It was, if I'm not mistaken, there was a tour that was Pantera, Soulfly, and Morbid Angel.
Yep.
And then like a year or two later, there was that Extreme Steel tour, which was like Pantera, Slayer, Morbid Angel, Scrape, and Static X.
Yeah,
sounds right.
That's what I saw.
I saw that in Long Island.
Yeah, I saw both of them. But yeah, I'm pretty sure Phil did. Played with Morbid Angel every night, so I think that would kind of work.
Didn't they also come to the Civic Center with like Tool and fucking Typo Negative? Is that, or am I thinking two different shows?
Maybe I remember a Pantera tour in the '90s with Anthrax, like when they had. I'm pretty sure it was John Bush.
They did a tour,
but I think they did. Actually, Ralph, I think you're right. I think there was a tour. Wasn't it like they called it or am I mixing things up with White Zombie? Right, because there was a War of the Gargantuas tour or something.
That was, I think, later. He did, that was like an EP thing that he did too. Like Phil.
Oh right, yeah, years later. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. There's so many shows, but yeah, I know they played with Typo Negative at the Civic Center, but I can't remember I think for some reason Tool played that, but I don't know.
You could be right. Too many shows to remember them all.
And I purposely have not been going online and watching a lot of the footage of the Pantera reunion.
It's just, Pete, it's just too much of Zakk being Zakk. It's just,
yeah, it's a shame. I like Zakk too.
And,
yeah,
you
want him to be as truthful to the original Pantera sound and Dime sound. Yeah.
And on certain songs he's better, and on certain songs, he's not. Like to me, Charlie Benante just covers the Vinny parts much closer. And man, the footage that I saw with Phil, he sounded great. Because I know I saw that him do the 3 times open for Slayer on the last Slayer run, and he sounded like shit.
Really? Yeah.
So I think the time off really
helped him.
Really helped his voice.
It could be. And before I forget, I got Butch's picks too, so I'll give one of his right now. So his first pick is Blue Murder with Cozy Powell on drums instead of Carmine Appice. And apparently early on in the formation of Blue Murder, Cozy was a part of that. So Butch wished that he would have stayed on in place of Carmine. And, I love Carmine. I think Carmine sounds great on the album, but the prospect of having Cozy Powell play in that band, I can agree with that. Can totally agree with that. All right, Ryan.
All right. Well, speaking of Zakk Wylde, I will also not kick him out of the band for once. I'll be nice to the guy. So I am going to talk about Ozzy. And it's not just one person, but my understanding, I don't really follow his stuff as too much lately. The last 2 albums, I couldn't get into it all. Ordinary Man and Patient Number 9. And I understand that live, Zakk is in the band, and they have a pretty stable live line. Obviously, Ozzy doesn't play live much anymore, but on paper, he's still in the band. But the last 2 albums have been basically Ozzy, singing, and like this studio monstrosity, like this one guy, Andrew Watt, producing, playing guitar, bass, and then bringing in this hodgepodge of guys from like mostly non-metal bands like Rage Against the Machine, I don't know, fucking Red Hot Chili Peppers, like all these bands that I fucking hate, to be honest. Kick all those motherfuckers out, throw them all in the river, kick them off a bridge, and get like a real honest to God, like old school, from like his peers, like people that grew up with Sabbath, grew up with Ozzy, get those guys, like a band like that, like put them in the band, maybe get like, some of the dudes from a band like Saxon, bring some of the old dudes and, bring in, my brain just totally failed. Like Brian Tatler from Diamond Head, like bring him in on guitar, guys like that, get like this assembly of like old school, like, it doesn't have to be English, but, it'd be cool with English musicians. And have Ozzy, he's going to keep recording, as long as he can, good for him. But have them like play on the album instead of like this hodgepodge. Who's a fuck these guys? You look at like the list of who's on the last couple Ozzy albums, like 8,000 names, like guitar on one song. It was cool to have like the last one. It was cool to have Iommi and stuff. So that, some of the guys are obviously cool, but a lot of these guys, like, just get them the fuck out of here. And this material sounds like it's kind of like bolted together in the studio. It's way too modern. It's reaching for an audience. I don't even really know what the appeal is, but Ozzy's a classic guy. I think most of the audience would appreciate if there was a new batch of Ozzy tunes that's like a real throwback, like an honest to God kind of just, return to the roots kind of thing, even though it's hard to do. But how many more albums does he have in him? So if he does at least one more, maybe not. But I'd like to see it done that way instead of another, some fancy studio producer and 9,000 names that nobody gives a fuck about. So kick all those guys out, except for Tony Iommi. Bring some, of his peers in and, do a one honest, good album with like a nice old production, like not this very modern sound. And I think that would go a lot better because Patient Number 9 fucking sucked. Except for those Ozzy songs, except for those Iommi songs. Sorry. Those are the only ones that were really interesting to me.
You're looking for a Ozzy band, right?
A band,
and he haven't had in a long time.
He has a live band. Like that band would be one thing, but even that band is kind of like a lot of modern, like guys from these newer bands. Like get rid of all of them too. Yeah,
I gotta say something there because do you know what legendary band Blasto comes from? The bass player.
Well, he was in Rob Zombie's band.
He was in Rob Zombie.
Way more fucking cooler than that. He was in Cryptic Slaughter.
Oh, that's right. Way back, like old, Money Talks era, right? Like way back then.
He's original member of Cryptic Slaughter. He like the reason why Cryptic Slaughter doesn't really play and tour and stuff. There's like another Cryptic Slaughter out there because like he's a founding member and like has rights to the name and stuff. I'm pretty sure. I hate if I was wrong right now, and a million people correct me.
Jump up your ass, yeah. Well, then keep him and kick these other guys out. Get more of an honest, like old school kind of band. I think that would just, I mean, that's what I would like to hear, because I hear these new albums.
He's been with Ozzy for a long time. He's been with him for a long time, which is kind of cool to see, like a guy that's sticking around. And
Zakk's with him for a long time too, because I mean, Zakk's come and gone like 10 times, but I think currently he's still, you know, if Ozzy ever played again.
On that last album,
well, he's playing October 6th.
He had so many different session people in every song. I don't know who's on like every song on the last album. But
that's what I'm saying. Like that's just, I don't know. That has zero appeal to me. That's like a kind of like very modern, like bolted together in the studio. All right, Ozzy, sing over this song we wrote for you. You know,
well, he's kind of doing like the Santana thing. I mean, that's what Carlos Santana did, like, 15, 20 years ago. Just let's put out an album. Yeah. We'll invite a million people on there.
He made
sounds different, and made a ton of money.
He made $1 zillion. I didn't like those Santana albums, but they fucking sold, especially that one with that stupid song "Smooth," which I regret ever mentioning on this show. It sucks so much, but yeah. So I'm just saying, Ozzy needs like a little bit of a house clearing here. Bring some old guys in. Get rid of all this session bullshit, and like if he does one more album, and no fucking Rick Rubin either. That guy's a hack. I have to say it on this channel. Fuck Rick Rubin. Doesn't need to be anywhere near a fucking mixing board, any of this stuff. So that's it. That's all I got for that.
All right, great.
All right, I'm sort of bending the rules a little bit of this, but yeah, whatever. But my thought was. I've seen some of the footage, or at least some of the recent footage, and Ace Frehley is fucking terrible live. And I think he should bring in a full-time singer and just let him concentrate on guitar. And I thought, why not Jason McMaster? He's helped out everybody else, here late, with Armored Saint and Accept and all the bands that he has on his own time. I thought, he could probably do just fine on 99 to 100% of the Ace Frehley songs, where hey, let Ace sing a couple of them, or something, and just give him, push him out a little bit, but just let him concentrate on playing the guitar and everything, because it's his singing is or lack thereof is just not doing anybody any favors. So I just thought with that, it's not necessarily following the rules with this. He's just sort of your addition by subtraction, addition by subtraction, or addition by addition, whatever. But it might help their sound live quite a bit.
And what's really funny is even on album, Ace doesn't sound good. Even in the studio, man, those covers albums he's been doing. Oh yeah, God. It's like, dude, just play guitar. It's the old Zappa thing. Shut up and play guitar, man. That's all.
Right.
That's a cool choice. All right, Ralph.
All right. So Dark Angel's coming around. They're doing a tour. They're doing this album in its entirety. It's one of the greatest thrash metal albums of all time, Darkness Descends. And when they first were reamping up to get things going again with Dark Angel, it was Don Dottie. He was putting out on like social media how this is going to happen and everything. So I got really excited because I've seen Dark Angel twice back in the day with Reinhardt singing, but I never got to see them with Doty, and I would love to have seen that. So I was really excited. And then Gene Hogan came out and said, "Nah, that ain't happened with that. We're gonna do it with this lineup and that." So that all he had to retract what he said and everything. And now they're coming around and they're doing that album in its entirety. And I was just thinking, like, he would be perfect to bring back for at least this little bit of a tour. The guy dying to do it. He would love to do it, and that he would be perfect to hear his voice doing it. I've heard the other guy singing these songs, and he's great. I like the Reinhardt stuff. I'm wearing an original Leaf Scars tour shirt from like '89 or whatever, and I would still like to go to see the show. It's going to be a great show, but it would be so much better if Don was singing. So that's my choice.
Ralph, a couple of years ago, I went to Ed Forsty put on a show in Brooklyn, and he had a band called Eliminator, which was Don's new band. or at the time was new band, and he was basically doing a whole set of Dark Angel songs, mostly from Darkness Descends. And just like 4 or 5 years ago, I hate to tell you, he sounded fucking terrible. He could not, he couldn't hit the notes. He was like raspy. It was, I mean, he might have had a bad night.
He hasn't done anything like pretty much since then. So
Since then, yeah.
I don't know how he would sound. And it's been so long, and there's not much footage of that time era from Dark Angel. Like you can barely find anything to watch from that time live. And I know Reinhardt's great live. He runs all around, he jumps, he goes crazy. But I always thought he was running around so much that he wasn't like being great as a singer. But I really don't know how good it would be if Doty. But to me, because that album had him on it and singing, that's what I would want.
That's the guy you want. Yeah, that's why I went to that show, because I'm like, it's Don singing Dark Angel. I got to go, and that's awesome. I saw like half the set, and I just left. I was so depressed. I mean, the band kind of sucked too. They sounded unrehearsed. The guy couldn't play vocal and stuff at all.
Still cool that you seen him singing live though. And those songs, that's fucking cool.
It was. He butchered. I hate to say it. He butchered the Burning of Sodom. And after that, I'm like, I just left. I felt so shit. I just drove home. I'm like, this sucks. Poor guy. You know, I mean, you're right though. He hasn't done anything in like 30 years. And,
I don't know how good it would have been, but to me in my head, it would be awesome if he was doing it. But I don't know.
That's why I went. And I'm like, this is gonna be so fucking cool. And then it happened. I'm like, oh god. But you know, that's how it happens sometimes. So you don't know until it happens.
That was kind of my question. I was like, was there any bad blood there, or maybe did the band know that he just can't sing anymore, right? And
based on what I saw, he could not. He couldn't do it. So then that was only one night. It could have been a bad night, but. He definitely could not do it that night.
There does seem to be some kind of bad blood, because like Don had made this big post about it all happening and stuff. And then they came out and had their post about how we're doing it, but we're not doing it with Don. And then he had to like retract like what he said and everything. It was kind of like messy up there, but I would have loved it.
If it happened that he was able to do it, that would be so fucking cool, because his voice on that album is amazing. It's iconic, but I know.
Yeah.
It is what it is, unfortunately.
It was a long time ago, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so my next one here, gonna kind of go back to, I guess, 1989, 1990. So Deep Purple. Ian Gillan leaves the band. Basically, they kind of gets kicked out of the band. They replace him with former Rainbow singer Joe Lynn Turner for the album Slaves and Masters, which kind of sounds like a Rainbow album. To me, doesn't really work. I want a Deep Purple album to sound like a Rainbow album. I mean, sound like a Deep Purple album, not a Rainbow album. So my replacement for Joe Lynn Turner, why don't we replace one Gillan with another? Because right around 1990, Badlands is kind of almost on the outs anyway. So why don't we take Ray Gillan from Badlands, put him into Deep Purple for at least an album or two to see how it works out. He's a fresh face, got a great voice. He could probably sing all the old Gillan stuff and maybe even do some of the Mark III era stuff as well. Young guy, looks great, big talent. He's got the swagger. I think that would have worked really, really well, instead of putting kind of like, again, no disrespect to Joe Lynn Turner, because I love Joe, but to me, Deep Purple did not work with him in the vocals. So I think replacing Ian with Ray might have made it sound like fresh Deep Purple instead of Rainbow Mark IV. So that's my pick.
That. I'm sold on that one.
Right? I mean, why not? Right? Because we knew that like Badlands like ended so quick anyway. So it's like, well, why not just toss them in there? So that's my choice. Butch's next one, he's kind of cheating a little bit. It's pretty funny. He goes, "How about we take Yannick Gers out of Iron Maiden and replace him with nobody?" In the story.
I knew he can't let it go. Can't let it go.
That's awesome.
I knew he was going to do that.
All right, back to Chris.
All right. Well, I was gonna put Bobby Steele back in the Misfits, but that didn't. That Ralph had that one. So then I thought, oh, okay, well, maybe I'll take Yannick Gers out of Iron Maiden. But Butch did beat me to that. I was talking about it with my buddy Sean earlier. He said we should just get a pretty girl playing keyboards. and they had heard of Maiden. I was going to say, if we're kicking Yannick out of Maiden and we have to put somebody back, I don't know how he can, if he can fucking play anything. He could just stand there. He could just get the other guys bottles of water. But I would say put in Dennis Stratton if we had to, anybody had to go back in. If we had to keep Maiden a 6-piece. I know Dennis Stratton still does some kind of gigs because it came up on my Facebook feed the last time Maiden came around that Dennis Stratton was playing like some bar in Massachusetts.
Yeah. Apparently he went to the
Praying
show I
Mantis.
was at in Worcester. I didn't see him, but
There you
he
go.
was apparently there.
Yeah, he was in
He's
Praying
been
Mantis.
out of Praying Mantis now for a while, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. He should be.
But yeah, so that on the fly, that would have been that would have been my pick. I mean, I thought about giving Zakk Wylde a pink slip out of Ozzy's band, just for the trifecta, just to
Fire
fucking
him from everything. Get the hat trick.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, the only person I thought who would be kind of interesting because he was offered the gig 100 years ago and turned it down was Michael Schenker. I always thought, and looking at like Ryan said, man, the last 35 years of Ozzy records have sucked. But man, Schenker's been on a fucking roll. The last couple records I thought were great. So I'm like, well, if I had to throw somebody in, that could have worked too.
Yeah.
Anything would help at this point.
Yeah, no, it's true.
Anything would help those fucking Ozzy albums.
The AI guitar player writing songs for Ozzy would be better
an
than
improvement.
Yeah, better than the shit he's been putting out. So,
All right, Ryan, your last pick for the day.
All right, well, I kind of thought of this one last minute because I really struggle with this. So I guess I got to put some black or death metal in. So I'll pick a black metal band. I'll go to Norway. Nick's not here, and he didn't give me his pick. So I think Nick would have picked this anyway. So this is me and Nick's pick. Gorgoroth from Norway. They've had a whole series of vocalists over the years. All of them great. They had Gal, they had Hat, they had this guy Pest. These are all their good Christian names on their birth certificate. And then in 2012 or 13, the Infernus, the guitarist, also his real name, kicked out the last singer Pest, who was on a whole series of their albums, and brought in this other guy named Stefan. I can't pronounce his black metal pseudonym, so we'll leave that alone. And I don't know. He just sucks. It doesn't have a good voice for black metal. It sounds like he's singing in kind of like a Lamb of God kind of band. Doesn't fit. The album they put out with him is one album so far, Instinctus Bestialis from 2015. I thought was the worst thing Gorgoroth ever did. But the music was okay, but mostly his vocals were just like really dead and just they had no emotion, no energy, no fucking hate, no like violence to them. So literally kick him out and bring back literally anybody that has been in the band previously. Gal, I think there's a lot of bad blood there legally, so he's probably not going to come back. But me and Nick saw him in Norway last year with his other band, and he still sounds fucking great. He got a great voice. Some of these other guys, like the original vocalist Hat, Norwegian for hate, so just Hat. I don't know if he's done anything in a long time, but he was on the earliest Gorgoroth stuff. He sounded fucking great. And the guy Pest, who was the vocalist for a couple albums in the 90s and most recent one before he got kicked out, he still sounded great too. So pick any of these other jokers out, or just bring someone else in, because for live they have a host from Take is their live vocalist, and he's great too. So even have him on the studio stuff instead of this guy they got, Stefan, because nothing against the guy. I'm sure he's cool. I'm sure he's cool to have a beer with, but his vocals fucking suck. And I hope if Gorgoroth does put out another album, because it's getting on a decade now, I'm sure they will. I'm hoping he's not the one on it, but it looks like it's going to be him. So another round of shitty vocals. So that's my third pick.
All right, cool. Greg.
Right, both my picks were already taken, but so I'm just with Lars Ulrich and Yannick Gers. But I'm going with Yannick Gers, and I had put some thought into this, and either I would go the Butch Jones route with either replacing him with no one, or my thought was this was when Chris and I saw, or I was with all you guys when we saw Maiden the last time back in October. I mean, that was the third time I saw them, and all three times that I've seen Maiden have been with the 3 guitar lineup. And I don't recall like ever the other 2 times really concentrating on watching Yannick Gers. And this time where we were sitting, we were on the Chris and I were on the Gers side. Rob was also on the Gers side too. So I got, full exposure of him, right there. And it was just, like my eyes were being fisted while you were pouring sugar in my gas tank. I mean, so it was just, so, I mean, my thought was to either get rid of him entirely or replace him with either of the guys from Satan. When I saw them last month, they were great. I mean, it's like those guys and a contemporary of theirs too, not just bring in some guy who's 30 years younger than them. Someone who's along the same age of them. So I thought either Russ Tippins or Steve Ramsey from Satan to take over if you need 3 guitar players. I don't know if you do, but whatever. They've been doing that for the last 30-some years. So, hell, go with it if you want to. So either of the Satan guys, I think, would be sufficient.
I saw Russ's like a week after, because I saw Satan doing that tour 3 times, because that's what I do. I saw Russ's other band, Tanith, which is more of like a Wishbone Ash kind of Uriah Heep band. And they were fucking amazing too. That man is a phenomenal guitar player. They were so good live. So, and the new Tanith album on Metal Blade is if you like Wishbone Ash, Uriah Heep, Blue Oyster Cult, like that kind of stuff, 100% check it out. It is really good.
I am anxious to be waiting for my copy.
It's you'll. There's one song on it. I won't.
I like the last one was great too. Yeah.
It is so Blue Oyster Cult, but like not in a derivative way, but like a really like, yeah, this just has that feeling, You'll know when you hear it. It is really good.
Cool.
I mean, I just had a thought. What if we just take Yannick Gers and we just break his legs? Because it's not his guitar playing. I mean, he barely plays guitar anyway, but it's the prancing around that bothers me and everybody else. So let's just break his legs and make sure,
Wouldn't he just twirl around on a wheelchair then, or
just spin in circles on a wheelchair? Yeah, he played a lot of solos this last tour. I remember him playing quite a few of the leads.
He's not a bad player by any means.
No,
he can certainly play.
He was in Gillen and White Spirit. And, I mean, his ability is not within question. It's just visually, it's
prancing.
It's silly. I mean, it's laughable. More like, I mean, when you got your leg up here and it just looked goofy.
I don't think anything's going to be changed about that, though. I think
nope.
Till
Status quo.
Of the day. Yep, exactly. Yeah. Oh well. Ralph.
I was thinking just like get a real ballerina up there and throw an Eddie mask on it. And just like the fucking ballerina.
I like that too.
That's not a bad idea. If you have
like a Hawkwind show, you got these get
the dancing girls
dramatic
up there,
performance out there.
All right, so yeah, we did a show about us all going to see Mercyful Fate. And during that show, Pete asked me at one point, he said, "But Ralph, how much did you miss Denner?" And I was like, yeah, no one's talking about that, fucking Michael Denner's not there. And they got the Michael Weed guy. He's been with them for a long time. He's done stuff with King Diamond, and he's a great fill-in, great guitar player, but there's no reason. Pete did his Riff Masters episodes all month last month, and he had this duo. It's Denner and Sherman. There's 2 great fucking underrated albums that they put out together, 2015 and 2016, and they're like, Satan's Tomb and Masters of Evil. I mean, they're doing. This is Mercyful Fate's next 2 albums. If King Diamond was singing on them, they got Snowy Shaw playing drums. Like, why isn't Michael Denner part of what's coming up right now? We're all anticipating this Mercyful Fate album. It's been so long. Denner should be there. He should be there. There's no reason his fucking chops are fucking up there. These albums are amazing. It's like a sick power metal singer singing Mercyful Fate songs on these. I mean, it kind of sounds like Ripper Owens is singing high parts and stuff. And you could hear where, if you listen to them, you'll just picture it as what would King Diamond be doing if he had these songs. And this is amazing shit. There's no reason he's not there that I know of. I mean, maybe King was mad that they put out these 2 amazing albums that should have been Mercyful Fate albums. I mean, it even has like the artwork from same artist, I think, from
It was the
Class-
same guy whose
Same
name I
artist,
completely
yeah,
forget.
there's some kind of heat between Michael Denner and King Diamond. That's the deal.
I imagine so. I haven't heard what it was.
I don't know what it
But,
is, but
Yeah, he should have been part of the last tour, but knowing that there's a new album coming, it's like, damn, why? We can hear how good this guy's playing. It's kind of like, Ross the Boss killing it with his band right now. And then Man of War has this fucked up shit go on with their guitar player. Why not bring this guy back? Ross the Boss that we all love. Their first 6 albums are their best albums. It's be pleasing all the fans and stuff, and they just go, no, we're gonna get this guy, and they didn't even think about it. And there's a whole bunch of other situations like that. But yeah, to me, I'd love to see Michael Denner replace Mike Weed. And even though he's a great guitar player, like I said, I want to see there's magic with these two guys together. This is fucking magic. And that's why Pete had them as one of his picks last month for their guitar riff masters and shit.
Yeah, one of the great guitar duos in all of metal history, I think. Just so underrated, so amazing. That's a fantastic pick. I would love to see it. Yeah, I mean, yeah, the other dude's great too, but I want to see those two
It's
guys.
not the iconic duo,
Yeah. It's a shame that they can't make it happen. But this is what happens with these bands that have been around so long, man. You get these battles and resentments and things, and not much you can do about it.
So sometimes you can let it go, but when it's such an important duo, that's a KK Downing, Glenn Tipton duo, and that's another one. KK should be back in fucking Judas Priest. I love Andy Sneap. He's a great producer. I love the band Sabbath that he had back, that English thrash band. They were fucking amazing. Yep. History of a Time to Come, one of my favorite albums back then. But KK Downing is killing it with his band. KK Downing, like KK's Priest. You could see he's still got it. He still can do it. Get him the fuck back in. Please the fans. You all say, oh, it's all about the fans and this. It's not. You're fucking dicking us around by having these other fucking people that have nothing to do with the legacy. These guys are still alive. Get them the fuck in the band.
Yeah, they're not getting any younger. And like I've seen Ross the Boss a lot too. He plays those old Man of War songs as good as ever. I saw him in Texas a couple weeks ago, and it was fucking great.
Yep.
He can play all those songs. He plays the ass off them.
I watched that whole setup on YouTube. Someone put up this amazing footage of that, and that whole set, that was fucking amazing.
Oh, he killed it.
They were
It
great.
sounded amazing.
Oh, awesome. Lucky to have seen that.
Yep. Yeah, well, I don't know. Yeah, I think it makes sense for KK to come back at this point. No disrespect to Andy Sneap, who I respect greatly, but yeah, I don't know.
They were ready to have the band as a 4-piece, until everybody
yes,
flipped out on
good
that.
point, Craig.
Yeah,
I mean, listen, we always say it's the music business. Andy Sneap is probably getting $5 and a bologna sandwich. If KK Downing comes back, he wants to get his cut, which he deserves.
And
I'm sure the other guys are getting a bigger piece of the pie with Andy Sneap on
He is
guitar.
still getting a cut, though. He is still getting a cut.
Absolutely, because he is still part of the organization.
Like a shareholder or whatever, but he might as well play on the fucking shit too, be up there.
I agree with you 100%, Ralph. But all these bands, it's unfortunate. We've seen this so many times. Bands cannibalizing themselves just to cut a guy out to make it for a higher percentage. And who knows? Maybe that's what King is doing. Maybe that's why King is keeping Michael Denner out. Because I saw an interview with Michael Denner about the reunion, and he was livid because now he's furious with Hank Sherman, because he's like, Hank Sherman called him and said, "Listen, we're gonna do if there's a Fate reunion, it's got to be you." And then I'm sure King had the final say. So then Michael Denner heard on the news, that, there's a reunion and he's not part of it. But listen, the reality is, look at the Mercyful Fate tour. Look at the band's never been bigger. So the reality is they lost Michael Denner, but they're selling more tickets than ever before.
Yeah. Go figure.
But will the magic be there on the album, the next album, when that album comes out?
That's what remains to be seen.
Excellent point.
That's where some of the heart is going to be missing from there.
No doubt.
But And it'll probably still be awesome. I can't wait for it no matter what. And Mike Weed is a fucking great guitar player. He's been with them forever. I got a picture with him. I met him years ago, and he's awesome. But you know, this guy's still out there killing it. He should be part of it.
100%. Yeah.
Yep. I agree. Butch's last pick for the day is we'll go back to Metallica here. He goes, he would like to swap out Kirk Hammett for Marty Friedman. Yeah, and get Metallica the kick up their ass that they've been looking for quite a while. That would be
that's a good idea. I like that.
I like that.
Right?
Do that and also put Tom Hunting on drums.
Yeah,
You know, get him
sure.
a payday, you know, because he had from his cancer treatment. Get him a good check.
Yeah, absolutely.
that's a damn good idea.
Yeah.
Sorry, Dave Lombardo, you're out.
You're out. Tom's in.
Tom's in. He needs the money, and you know he's great too. He's a fucking awesome drummer.
All right, my last pick for the day. So I'm going to go back to, I guess, the late 70s here. So The Who, Keith Moon died, right? So all of a sudden the band's like, do we continue on? You know, do we find another drummer? So they decide to find another drummer. They go with a drummer who is basically a contemporary from the Small Faces and the Faces. Kenny Jones becomes their new drummer. And they do a couple albums and a bunch of tours with Kenny Jones. And as someone who saw The Who right around that time, I think Kenny Jones is a fine drummer. He was never the guy for The Who. When you have this wild and crazy guy like Keith Moon, and you get the simple, to the point, in the pocket guy like Kenny Jones, it just doesn't work at all. So I would have swapped out, forget Kenny Jones, get someone either like Simon Phillips, who was fresh from doing that stint in Judas Priest, or you get Cozy Powell, who this is post Rainbow at the time, right? So why not get a guy, a big profile name, who can do all the flashy shit, who's got a big personality? So I think either one of those guys, specifically, I think Cozy would have been good in The Who. Maybe a little too heavy for The Who, but I think could have given them a little bit of life, because those couple of Who albums that they did with Kenny Jones are pretty limp in my book. So yeah, that's what I would have done.
Or maybe
How
even,
about Mitch Mitchell?
or even
How about Mitch Mitchell?
Ainsley Dunbar too. You know, he
Ainsley,
was in
yeah.
Jefferson Starship at the time. So
Yep. Lot of guys that could. Yeah, Mitch Mitchell. What was he doing at the time, right? I mean, nothing.
Yeah, he was.
I don't think anything, right?
To me, that's the first thing that came up to mind when you were saying it the whole time. I was waiting for you to say Mitch Mitchell. I don't know why I thought of him, but then you didn't. You bring up the other guys, but
That would have worked
I think
too,
of
though.
him.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
you know,
he
Townsend
real
and them
busy, real busy.
well familiar with him.
I don't even know if Cozy would have been too heavy for him, because Keith's playing on Live at Leeds. It's crazy. He beats the shit out of that fucking drum kit. So
True.
you know, Cozy's definitely an energetic player, but Keith, like on that live album, he's a fucking maniac. So I think he would have fit right in.
Yeah, I think so too. And like I said, I think that one of the reasons why I think a different drummer would have been great for them is because those albums that they did post Keith dying are just really like kind of lacking energy and the fire of the early Who stuff. And again, I'm not trying to blame it all on Kenny Jones, but
He's the hired gun. Yeah. So
yeah, I just never thought he was a good fit for that band, because he's just so completely different than Keith Moon's style of playing. I mean, you know, here you had this real busy guy who just, you know, very unconventional. And then you got someone who is just 100% so conventional and just so like, I don't want to use the pedestrian, because like I said, Kenny's a fine drummer, but he's just not the firehouse player that Keith Moon was. And maybe that's just where they were at the time. But I think that if they would have gotten someone who a little bit more energetic, a little wilder in their playing style, would have made a little more sense. And maybe help those albums to be a little bit more, have a little more life to them. I don't know. That's just me, I guess. So
Reading Pete Townsend's book, he almost welcomed that it was a different drummer, because he hated the chaoticness of Keith Moon.
yeah, and maybe they just wanted to move on from
like
that.
how, yeah,
he wanted someone more disciplined and
Yeah.
he
Well, I guess
liked the
me
calmer
speaking
to work
selfishly from a fan point of view, right? Because you kind of,
yeah.
I was such a huge Who fan at the time, and to me, those albums paled in comparison to anything they did with Keith. So I wanted, you know, kind of like more of the same. So, but I could totally see the guys in the band, specifically Keith, being like, all right, you know, we're going to continue on, but can't do it that way anymore, right? You know, Keith, we loved you, but no more. So that could be. So anyway, there you have it, everybody. 3 bands who we would have loved to have seen a member swap. who goes, who comes, and why. So play along. This has all been fun. Play along in the comments below and let us know what you would choose, which bands and which members you'd be swapping out, and why you would do it. And thanks for watching, and visit us on the web at www.seaoftranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube, all together, all the damn time. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and click on that notification bell so you get alert of all of our content as it posts. And please do hit the like button before you leave. We also have down below the links to our Ko-Fi page as well as our merch page. So thanks in advance for checking that out as well. And tune in 2 weeks' time once again to the Hudson Valley Squares. And till then, for Ryan Scow, Craig Kaminsky, Chris Allo, and Ralph Tambora, I am Pete Pardo. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you real soon here on Hudson Valley Squares.